My name's Sandra Justice. I'm the director for the Research Development Institute, and I'm joined here by Tina Lucas, who
Hello.
is our administrative superhero, and others. Anyone would like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ross DeBose, part of our Research Development Institute here at USF.
Good
And
morning,
John
Ross.
Johnston,
Hi,
also
John.
also part of the Research Development Institute and on the St. Pete campus.
And I'm Karen Walker, Associate Director of Competitive Intelligence for the Research Development Institute.
Wonderful, wonderful. I do
Hi,
believe we
everyone.
have a faculty from engineering, right?
Yeah, faculty for engineering. My name is Ham from Civil Engineering Department.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning. Dr. Alfredo, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm trying to get my headphones to work. Can you guys hear me?
I
Yes.
can.
Okay. Oh, they just turned on. Okay. Sorry, what kind of introductions are we doing?
Just name and where you're from.
Okay. Catherine Alfredo, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering on the environmental engineering side.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some PowerPoint slides. If you have questions, pop them into the chat. This is being recorded, and I'll take questions at the end. Awesome. Share. So hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes, we can.
Good. Slideshow. From the beginning. So how we diversify our funding portfolio? Well, last week, we kicked off this series with the virtual office hours with USF internal awards and talked about the internal awards and how that is the first part of your proof of concept, your preliminary findings, presenting and building capacity. And John Johnson did a really terrific job of going through all of these funding mechanisms and how to apply. So if you missed that, I encourage you to go see the recording. And if you've
Sandy?
applied for, yes?
Sandy, we're seeing your presenter view. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to share or not.
No, sorry. Thanks. Well, the good news is there's a presenter view. Let's see. Display settings, swap. Okay. Can you see that now?
Not yet.
Oi.
You may have to click the share button again.
Yeah, I think so. Share.
That's better.
Okay. Maybe.
Now just start the presentation.
We can see how busy you are now.
Oh, I am. Sorry. Whoops. You'd think I'd be good at this by now. But I'm not. But I'll get better. I'm not going to worry about the view that you see.
Well,
There
you can
are
just hit from
notes.
beginning. If you can just hit from beginning, we'll be able to see it better because in that view, we can't really see the slides as well.
Okay, from the beginning.
There we go.
Okay, so I will share these slides with you. They have links to the resources that we're going to talk about. And I hope that they are useful to you. So when you're applying for grants, one of the things that we encourage you to do is to revise and resubmit and not give up. And I do want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that your revise resubmit has a much better success rate. So paying attention to those peer review comments is essential. But in this conversation, we're going to talk about diversifying your grant portfolio. So as we all know, the federal landscape is a little bit shaken up, and this is an important opportunity for us to think about how we can diversify the funding, looking at foundations or industry or other types of funding that bring into your lab and to your research. Based on the 2023 data from NSF, The industry funded 75%, followed by federal government, which funded 18%, but it's a little bit misleading if all you focus on is the numbers, because bench research, that preliminary findings, is often funded by the federal sponsors, whereas industry wants to get involved more often when it's translated into practice. So Marcia McNutt, National Academy of Sciences president, spoke to this in her address on the State of the Science on June 3rd. And she spoke to how great science is fundamental to our economic growth, to national security and the prosperity and well-being of all citizens, but also to the impact that as a global power, USF and the nation, the United States, is a leading research development. We're leading the world. But to do that and to sustain that, we must continue to drive down the administrative costs. We need to continue to fuel the training and preparation of tomorrow's researchers. And it's going to be essential to do that with a diverse portfolio, because we're seeing cuts at NIH and NSF and NASA, and targeted areas and programs that are being cut, like climate change and DEI and other programs. And when this was happening early in the spring, we saw a number of foundations answer the call and speak to how, if your grant was canceled at NIH because of DEI, or if you're doing climate research and you can't find funding because of what's happening in the federal landscape, then they increased their portfolio. They really opened their doors to these types of opportunities. Now, the National Science Foundation has really reset their funding priorities, and they're reorganizing and redrafting a lot of these calls for proposals. And in a recent New York Times article, that they have an interactive model that shows how the actual funding is shrinking from almost half, and where those areas are really focused. The research priorities are artificial intelligence and high performance computing, as well as data storage, data management, biotechnology. And we have a couple of engineers on, so I know that these are the funding priorities, funding areas that are going to resonate not only in engineering, but in the new college. So as we think about what is that triple helix of funding, we want to think about how it's industry funding as well as philanthropic funding. France Cordova, who now serves as the president for Science and Philanthropy Alliance, was the previous past president for the National Science Foundation. So she really understands the impact of bench science, and has been able to, through the Science Philanthropy Alliance, rally these major philanthropic sponsors for catalyzing scientific discoveries and really being thought leaders and supporting the future of science and discovery in the United States. She also gave a presentation, a proceedings workshop for GREER, which is the Government, University, Industry, Philanthropy Research Roundtable. That's a mouthful. And the link is in the notes. But what I want to make sure that we all hear is that this is an opportunity for teams and moving out of silos and working with partners and strengthening that relationship. And you're going to hear this a lot. It's a relationship business, building a relationship with your program officer, building relationships with philanthropy, helping them to understand what your research is about, telling them that story of what you're doing and why it matters. Advancing industry partnerships can be quite foreign to faculty. It's not done in the same way. And building those relationships with industry can sometimes have unrealized benefits, things that you never thought to even ask for. So understanding our relationship with UIDP, the University Industry Demonstration Partnership. The president is Tony Buckanoff. I'm going to butcher that name, but there's a whole resource there's a page of resources available to our faculty as USF is a member of UIDP, how to increase that impact, how to strengthen university and industry partnerships. And Eric Eisenberg and corporate partnerships, as well as our tech transfer office, are all really engaged. So it's not just one person helping or one partner, but a whole ecosystem of support. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to understand who our stakeholders are and what those revenue streams might be, and thinking about what giving opportunities are out there. So we want to build a strategy that will look at these things and bring them together for a more robust and resilient portfolio for your research going forward. Now, we don't want to think about this as just rainy day funding, although it's probably raining somewhere. We want to think about this on a long-term basis. And I've outlined here just a few of the steps that we can consider. First is grant capture. How do you find the funding that you need? So say you want an industry partner or a philanthropic sponsor, how do you know who those people are and where to get that funding? Grant capture is an art form almost in understanding how to find funding and how to know what funding you are eligible to apply for. And cobbling together the diverse portfolio means looking at foundations, and we can go to the USF Foundation for support. We can look at industry partners, and we can look at federal and non-federal. And then how do you position the ask? Different types of sponsors, we're going to ask for different things. You know, sometimes it's a white paper or a concept page. The industry partners may ask for a quad chart, more like DARPA, or you may get an actual full application. So what we've seen with some philanthropic sponsors is if they're health oriented, they will actually follow much of the guidance or guidelines as the National Institutes of Health. So once you get your award, how you manage that funds may be different as well. Thinking about what quarterly deadlines you'll have or what annual reporting will be required for each of your awards is going to be key, because you're going to be managing a portfolio of sponsors, and all the sponsors will have their own expectations. And you'll want to demonstrate impact, showing each of those sponsors the return on investment so that it's not one-time funding. It's something that you can keep going back to that well. One of the ways that we find grant opportunities is Adam Grants. Adam Grants is being piloted on the Sarasota and St. Petersburg campuses for the faculty, and it allows AI to target funding opportunities across a wide variety of sponsors. Another way to find funding opportunities is looking at resources that are cultivated, such as the one at the USF Tech Transfer Office, where they put together industry foundation opportunities, government opportunities, and time-sensitive campaigns. And for one USF, there is the Faculty Insight engine that's powered by academic analytics. And when you go out to this website, it will create your profile and map funding opportunities to what you're interested in. Now, this academic analytics is managed by Adam Caskey in our USF Office of Decision Support. So if you ever have any problems with it, or if you'd like more information on how to better leverage this tool, Adam is a great resource. So as we're thinking about this, we're going to identify funding opportunities, Then we're going to apply for the funding opportunities. And to the extent possible, we'll revise and resubmit. And we'll demonstrate return on investment to those sponsors and communicate impact so that we can continue to build on the success and to scale our research. So where to begin? A wonderful place to begin is a one-pager. If you build a one-pager, you can use that one page to shop your ideas to industry, put it in front of a foundation or a donor, or use it as a platform to speak with a federal program manager, maybe at NSF or NIH or NASA or NIST, to help them to see what it is you want to build on. And you want to leverage your ecosystem. So we're at the University of South Florida, a global R1 AAU institution. And as a research and innovation ecosystem, there are offices across the university on all 3 campuses and at Waterside downtown. Your resources as faculty include your associate deans for research, the USF Research Council, know who your research council members are, the USF Foundation, who has a database of philanthropic sponsors, the USF Community Industry Partnerships led by Dr. Eric Eisenberg, as well as the USF Research and Innovation, which includes the Institutional Research Effectiveness and Assessment, IREA, led by Dina Rose Wilson. So if you're working with dual use agreements, or you have contract or subcontract or fixed price contract questions, they're a great resource for you, as well as the Research Development Institute, which you've met the team this morning, our tech transfer office led by Michelle Turpak and Shannon Pastizo at USF Connect, and the Florida High Tech Corridor with Elizabeth Nelson. We have so many resources available for the faculty and the library as well in helping move forward impact and understanding the resources for researchers across the USF. So that was my spiel in a nutshell. And I'm going to stop sharing because I do not want death by PowerPoint. I want this to be a conversation, and I want to help you to move your research forward. So open it up to conversation. And I believe we've missed somebody. Dr. Hendricks, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah Hendricks. I work at the Center for Urban Transportation Research, which is in the College of Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Lewis?
Hi, everybody. My name is David Lewis. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Integrative Biology in the College of Arts and Sciences. And I'm interested in diversifying my portfolio given the federal funding landscape.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. So of the people who have joined, are there any questions about where to get started?
Yeah, where do you get started? I mean, I don't have a lot of creativity here. I mean, your idea of just finding where to go is, I just am used to keeping my eye out for RFPs from a small number of federal agencies, but EPA just canceled $1 million+ grant that was slated to come to me, and NSF, the directorate I usually apply to. I mean, they still exist, but vastly less money, and it was already in excess of 80% rejection rates anyways, back in the good times. So
I think that starting, especially for established researchers like you, like Sarah, that you know what you want to do, coming up with that one page and helping us shop it to the foundation, to industry, will help us with that first step of grant capture. Who wants to fund what you're interested in doing? And connecting you with industry and sponsors that are philanthropic, and even those partners that may be community-based. So I think a one pager is the first place I would start. And for those that are NSF focused, you could follow the High-Miller Catechism, or you could just do a project summary page because you're used to doing those. What's the overview, but not, instead of doing it just for a project, pull back the lens a little bit. What is it that you want to accomplish? Look at, in integrative biology, not just this project, but how does it create a ecosystem or a funding portfolio? What are you looking at more broadly? So that when we're shopping it to industry and to philanthropic sponsors, they can say, I may not be able to sponsor this, but I could pay for the students that do that. I could pay for this equipment. So help us to help you see what the needs are so that we can help shop it for you.
Okay. In those one pagers, I mean, you talk about a potential funding source saying, well, I could pay for this part, but not that part. I mean, that resonates with me because, I can submit a proposal to NSF for $1 million, right? But in reality, I can get the work done for probably a lot cheaper than that. There's just so much, there's the indirect costs with NSF, and I know a lot of other funders aren't going to pay 49.5 or 50% or whatever of overhead. Summer salary, maybe I could not be asking for summer salary when I'm trying to fund my graduate students, because the department doesn't have a lot of TAs. So if I want more than 1 or 2 students in my lab, sorry, I'm kind of hogging the stage here, everybody, but if I want more than 1 or 2 students in my lab, I need RAs, right? Research assistantship kind of things. And then the ecosystem you talk about, my lab, my colleague Catherine and I are collaborators on some instrumentation. The university as a whole already has a ton of resources. So the add-on cost for student X to do their master's degree is maybe 10 or 15,000 bucks, because all the super expensive stuff, field vehicles, whatever, we already have it. So where I'm going with all this is, in these one pagers, do we give some sense of like cost breakdowns? And so a potential funder can be kind of a la carte, like I can pay for that and that, but maybe not this.
Not usually in the one pager do you get into the dollars and cents. You really want to speak to purpose and what needs, right? And
Yeah.
when you get into the dollars and cents is when they invite you to actually have a conversation with them. Some will say, we just want to talk. Let's meet on Zoom. Some will say, can you give me a quad chart? Or I want to fund this, or this is really interesting. And they'll find something in your one pager that they'll say, this really aligns with what we're doing. And they'll want to ask you to apply for that specifically. And sponsors have such a deep portfolio that's very focused. They may say, I can only do this if you are willing to do that. And it's that other piece, that are you willing to do that? You want to make sure that that relationship that you're building, that they're not asking anything from you that you're not willing to do also.
Yeah.
So make sure that, it's a long road, but it's 2 ways. I don't want anyone to have a publication pre-approved by your sponsor before it can be published. I don't want intellectual property to leave you, or for any of your research to become at risk.
Yeah.
Catherine?
Yeah, I think for me, like I started trying to apply to foundations, and I had Andrew Farmer. I was working with him on trying to find some things, but there just wasn't a lot, honestly. And then, I'm sure everyone is applying to them, and so none of them went anywhere. You don't get any feedback as to reviewer comments as to how you could make this more competitive, at least for the ones that I did. And so I I got a little discouraged on trying to look for it. And I think it's also really hard when, you know, name schools just have people calling them, and we have to go out kind of like banging on doors being like, look at us, even if the research we're doing is better than the people who would be out of discipline, honestly, for what they're getting grants for. And I just, and then all these private foundations turned to democracy. So all these ones that were doing more like environmental stewardship, for example, for things that I would look for, all of a sudden dropped all of that and just became like democracy. And so I don't know. I mean, it feels like the funding landscape also changed dramatically in the non-federal.
It does. And a lot of it, I believe it's responsive. This is a very politicized environment we're navigating right now. And it's not just the federal sponsors that are responding to the political prioritization or reprioritization, but we're seeing industry, even colleges and universities. There's a lot of change afoot. So how to navigate it is really by revisiting what is the purpose of what are we doing, who is it serving, and helping us at the Research Development Institute help you create that funding plan.
Can I ask one more question? Is there a lot of opportunities? Like, I can write the one pagers. I used to do that in industry all the time and send them over. But I think also, like, what about for those of us who do international work? It seems like, a lot of the normal lanes for international related research are gone, like don't exist anymore. Are there foundations that support international related work that's not democracy focused?
There are, and actually a lot of them are not even in the US. But we also want to look at all of the compliance that is stacked on, right? But absolutely, international research has not gone away. It is a lot of flavors of it, but like you, a lot of scientists and donors and sponsors are thinking about climate change and issues that are facing the planet. Because they're not facing the United States, they're not facing France. These are global problems, they need global solutions. I expect that in the next year, we'll find that NSF will continue to do those partnering. We've seen them partner with the Japan Science and Technology. We've seen them partner with foundations for global things and creating the global climate centers. So I expect that those types of partnering will continue, and partnering with industry as well. So I sent you guys the slide deck because I know, one, I talk really fast. And two, a lot of what I wanted you guys to take away is in the notes. So I wanted you to look at the links, see the notes, and it gives you some frameworks also of what you can do. So what's your homework? What's the takeaway? Takeaway is to work with the Research Development Institute. I'm going to ask Tina if she would pop into the chat our email address. So you don't email one person, you email the whole team. And that way you can send us your one pager. We can help you diversify your funding portfolio. And over the last few months, we've worked very closely with the USF Foundation and heard from them the onslaught of faculty that, like David, are in this boat of, my grant was just canceled. I need this money. What are we going to do? Now, although I want to be positive about we will help you, definitely, I also want to be realistic. There's no way that philanthropy and industry is going to fill the funding gap that is the federal sponsors, right?
Yeah, I think
It'll
I
help us
recognize
be
that.
more.
I would like more than the $0 I have right now,
Yes.
I mean, Sorry, Catherine had her hand up, but I jumped in there. You're muted,
I just
Catherine.
I just had one other question. So I've heard this term, and you said it too, quad chart, thrown around a
Mhm.
lot. What is a quad chart? I don't quite understand what that is, and I feel like I was on a DoD meeting, and they're like, just put together a quad chart, and I'm like, what is a quad chart? Like, can you describe what that is, or do you have an example? Like, is it like a physical table?
It is,
Or
it's like when you're helping your student develop a poster, right? And you're telling
Okay.
them you're going to put it on a slide and it's going to be 4 quads, right? And
Mhm.
that is, and they have very specific directions on what goes in each quad, in each
Okay.
quadrant. And I run the Summer Grant Writing Workshops program. You guys have
Mhm.
probably heard of it. And we have invited speakers every year. We have a DARPA talk, doing business with DARPA. It's online on our website, and it shows you how to do the quad shot. And there are
Okay.
also how-tos, and they're templates.
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna AI chat that later
yeah,
because it keeps
well,
coming
it's
up.
not complicated. The hardest thing I found for faculty is to not say it in 100 words, but to say it in 10,
Okay.
right?
So it's not
So
verbose. It's
it's
okay.
succinct,
Okay.
targeted. Tell me what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and what it's going to lead to.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. It's awesome.
Hi. So I have a question. So it's my third year of my assistant professor. So I really like the idea of diversifying my portfolio. So my research is mainly about improving safety of autonomous driving technologies, like how you oversight the existing intelligent driving function of your car and how make that safer for our road and for ourselves. Yeah, so recently I've been thinking how to diversify my portfolio. So I was trying to reach out to some car insurance companies because I think they care more if some driver is considered to be more aggressive or some behavior is more risky or others not. I'm also thinking about reaching out some car companies, just directly talk to those service provider. So I know in the industry, like big giant tech companies, they have some existing programs. So
Mhm.
there is like an NSF page, so you can go and apply. But for some other companies, for example, like State Farm or let's say Toyota, so they don't have those officially announced opportunities. So I'm wondering, in this case, do you have any advice for me? How should I approach them? How to sell my ideas to them and get funding opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. Toyota USA does have a foundation for funding, but when I go out to see that list of things that they sponsor, it's often not related to cars. It's surprising, but it's
Yeah.
about STEM education and creating the workforce of tomorrow and creating an understanding of the technology that goes into cars. So there may be opportunities at Toyota USA, and I like the way that you're thinking about it, about how these big industries that will benefit from the research have foundations and other places that have foundations, like when we look at the future of food and we look at Publix as a sponsor, um, thinking about who benefits is really key. And when you look at the Heimler Catechism, one of the first things it says is, these 8 questions, answer these 8 questions in one page, and that will help you design that one page that we can then shop to the sponsors. So when you send me a one page, I will then be able to send you, here are the sponsors that are industry, that are philanthropic, and we can have a conversation about the different tactics that you can apply for, the different ways that you can shop your ideas.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Sarah?
So I'm curious about the one pager. Does your research idea have to be um, very well developed and ready to go out of the gate? Or can the one pager describe a concept that needs to be further explored? And do the tech support that your office provides, can that provide any help with finding contacts to explore a research idea?
Absolutely. And I don't want to step on too much of what Karen will be presenting in a further week. She leads our competitive intelligence initiative, and much of this is building the knowledge economy. That's where your concept comes in, and really understanding the landscape of who's interested in this, how is it going to make a difference, and those things together will make a really strong argument for a sponsor.
Okay, so I need to join next Friday.
Well, I think that it would be great if you joined every Friday.
Of course.
Every Friday. I believe next Friday we're going to talk about limited submissions and look at some of the limited submissions that are actually out there.
That's
And
correct.
yes, excellent. And competitive intelligence will, Karen Walker also did a presentation for us for our summer grant writing workshops. So if you want a preview, you want a sneak peek, you can look at her summer grant writing workshops presentation. But ideally, you will take the first step this week, and between now and next Friday, provide just a one pager to the RDI. Say, I followed the Stanford thing that you provided in the PowerPoint, or I'm providing you this that I had shopped already to Florida Highway or wherever it's gone to, and give us something to start with.
Okay,
Great.
thanks.
My pleasure. Any other questions?
So if we develop a one pager, do we send it to this email address that Tina posted?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Thank you. And then we'll go ahead and farm out the one pagers to our team and give you responses.
Well, this is helpful, Sandy, for giving us an idea of how to start. I mean, I've long recognized that I need to diversify my funding portfolio, but it's easy to know that like there's just a standing call for proposals at NSF, or that DOE or NASA or EPA or something every year will put out some RFP in some area that's relevant to me. And I can write proposals directly to those funding opportunities, but I always feel stymied, not even know where to look, much less than how to craft a proposal to that target.
Well, this
So-
talk is really about diversifying portfolios for researchers like you, right?
Yeah.
And looking at different types of sponsors. If the audience for today's talk were directors of centers and institutes, it would have been a different talk. It would have been about how you create an advancement or a giving campaign, how you bring revenue in for courses that you offer, or for things that you run through your center institute, revenue generating. But as researchers, we just want money to come in. We don't want to make you feel like you have to generate revenue.
Yeah.
Generating revenue is really when it translates into a patent and a license, right?
Yeah. So you've talked about philanthropy and industry. I'm wondering about government at local and state levels. So like Catherine and I work in environmental quality kind of questions, right? Water pollution and water quality and things like that. And I mean, I have to imagine that, the state DEP or whatever, various state water management district, local, county, whatever entities would be interested in those things too, but they're not putting out calls for proposals the way a federal agency is. So I don't know, do you guys
This is
when you're
a great
feelers
way.
out, I mean, I know you have feelers out to industry and philanthropy. How about to state and local government?
Well, we do have USF lobbyists, right? And when we think about the ecosystem across USF, we need to also think about Mark Walsh and Monica McClanahan that are in Tallahassee or in DC lobbying on our behalf, right? But when we're thinking about how can we get in front of EPA, this is the funding that we need, right?
Yeah.
We can make that argument with a white paper, or we can be responsive to those calls for feedback. If we see an RFI, are we responding? Are we being tactical in our response to a request for information from a sponsor? We need to really be proactive, and we need to think about the relationships that we have with those program officers and program managers as well. Yeah, I embedded in the notes some of NSF's new priorities, and this is something that we're going to see across all of our federal sponsors, new priorities. We're already seeing NSF grant opportunities come down and then go back up with changes. Dr. Mattingly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Miranda. I work in the RDI with Sandy. I am the Associate Director of Strategic Leadership. I wanted to respond to your question, David. Two things. One, I don't know if you're familiar with the Institute of Government here at USF, Dr. Angela Christ. Her institute actually is designed to help faculty understand how to partner with different government entities. So she might be a really good resource to help you kind of inventory that landscape locally as well. And right here at USF, that's kind of like one of her roles at the Institute of Government. And I'll pop
Can you
there.
say her name again? Okay, I was gonna say, can you
Angela
say her name?
Christ.
Angela Cruz.
Chris.
I'm going to put the Florida Institute of Government in the chat box, and she's right on the About page.
Okay, great.
And then the other thing that I'll have to dig around for is, so one of the things I do is help organize think tanks around different regional, global issues. And one of them is around food. And we actually met with different city and county partners in our like Tampa Bay region. And they do have a system where they put up call for proposals. They're often more in contracting and procurement, but they still said that when they have research opportunities, they're on that same space. I don't know off the top of my head what that portal is, but I can try and dig it back up as well.
That would be awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, thank you, Ross, for putting that in the chat.
Wanted to add on to your comments about RFIs, Sandy. So one of the things that I try to do here at the RDI is monitor RFIs, because like Sandy said, RFIs can be a really powerful tool if we use them correctly. By getting faculty members to respond to RFIs, we're going to try to drive strategy at the federal sponsors, because they're putting out those RFIs, they're asking for information to inform them, hopefully to develop new funding opportunities or new programs, right? So it's really important that if there are those areas that we care about, that are important to our faculty, that, you know, areas that we're involved in, that, you know, we make sure that we have some input on the RFIs, because I've seen in the past times where, you know, faculty members have put in a really great RFI, and then when a funding opportunity comes out, we're like, oh, hey, that's stuff that we said we wanted to see. So I'm trying to move RFIs to Sandy so that she can say, oh yeah, this person, these people, they would want to respond to it. So that's something that I think it's important. And if, you know, I'm only human, so I don't always catch everything, but if you were to see an RFI and you'd say, oh, this is something we'd want to respond to, that's another thing that we can help with in the crafting of a great response to an RFI.
And I'm guessing that once you all see what our one pagers are, and then you know what we do, and you can then
Right,
contact us.
it gets you on the
for some
radar.
of these things. Okay.
Exactly. Karen also sends out that long list of funding opportunities, you know, research news, grant opportunities and research news that's coming from Karen's office. And she'll build in, if there's an RFI, a call for information, she'll include that in the research news. So definitely want to look at that.
And that's evolving. So if you have any comments, if you see that thing, if you say, oh, this is not useful, but this is, I'd love to get feedback on that, because we're trying to figure out, you know, what's really useful to faculty. You know, I try to put some featured funding opportunities, but I know most people are going to fall asleep after like 10 or so. And then, but we, you know, we also want to put events in there so that you all know that like things like this are going on that you can come to, and hopefully, you know, will be helpful. I also follow what's going on with the federal policy, because right now things are changing so fast it gives you whiplash. So I try to put some of that in there to make sure that essentially, and this is a little bit of what I'll be talking about in my office hour, but trying to keep the situational awareness for all of us at a high level so that we know, like, oh yeah, this happened, and you know, maybe this is happening, and so what can we do just to be in a more proactive state rather than always trying to react to everything, you know. So I think that'll help us in this time of high uncertainty to try to feel like, okay, we know what we're doing, we're going to try and, you know, stay the course, but making sure that everybody's on top of these things and understands what's going on is, I think, also important for us to try and do as a service to the community. Oh, you're muted, Sandy.
Thank you. So I'll figure this stuff out eventually. So we started with internal awards, and then we moved on to diverse funding portfolios. Our next will be limited submissions. We're also going to do competitive intelligence this month. And if there are other topics that you would like to see in November, let us know. And if this was useful to you, tell your friends. And if it wasn't useful, tell me why. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
Is last week's meeting also up on the website?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay,
it's
great.
actually
I
up
couldn't
there
join
already.
last week, so okay, great.
And this one will be up there shortly this afternoon sometime.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being here and for being so engaged. We're
Thank you.
looking forward to seeing you at next week's and at the think tanks as well. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.